Let's bring in Evan Osnos now, New Yorker writer and Biden biographer. And Evan, we've already seen where we're going to see President Biden. Oh, we're seeing him right now. Here he is in the president's room at the Capitol. He is signing 3 documents. One is an Inauguration Day proclamation. One is nominations to cabinet positions. And the third is nominations to sub-cabinet positions. Let's listen in.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
That President Biden will sign some more documents having to do with executive actions later. But that movement, what we saw right there, was him signing some pretty pro forma documents, important ones, though, an Inauguration Day proclamation and nominations to both cabinet and sub-cabinet positions. Let me bring back Evan Osnos from the New Yorker, a Biden biographer. And Evan, one of the things that Biden has prided himself on, and in fact was attacked for during the Democratic primaries because of his willingness to work with then segregationists in the 70s, is his ability to work with anyone, his willingness to work with anybody. He is now going to have to confront some pretty cynical operators in the Senate. We already see Josh Hawley, who was one of the leaders of the big lie movement to pretend that that Biden had not won the election, he had lost the election, and that there was some sort of ridiculous way that this was going to be overturned on January 6th, one of the ones who brought oxygen and really set the stage for the insurrection. Josh Hawley is now stopping, as is his senatorial prerogative, the swift confirmation of President Biden's nominee to be Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. That is Hawley's prerogative. He's not doing it because he opposes Mayorkas per se, but because he has concerns, he claims, about Biden's immigration policy. I'm sure there are others who see it as Josh Hawley just doing another stunt, regardless of the welfare to the national security of the nation. But is Biden, I know he's clear-eyed, I know he's not naive, but is he prepared for operators like that to be doing whatever they can to hurt him, even if that also means hurting the United States?
You know, he said at one point during the campaign, Jake, you'll remember he said that he thought that some Republicans after Trump was gone might have an epiphany, as he put it. And he got a lot of flack for that. And I pressed him on it. I said, what, really, an epiphany? And he said, yes, but here is what I mean. I don't imagine they're going to wake up and suddenly all start cooperating with me. But when you remove the element of Donald Trump, the very specific malignant influence of Donald Trump, everything begins to shift a little bit, and individual members of Congress will start to recalculate their interests. And it's in that place, in that moment, that's where Joe Biden gets to work. You know, what you heard, that speech today, which had a big influence from his advisor, Mike Donilon. Mike Donilon also is one of Joe Biden's close advisors on strategy dealing with Congress. And Mike Donilon said to me over the summer, he said, I think that, and Joe Biden thinks, that a lot of the way that we negotiate with Congress is wrong. We go into the room and we immediately say that we're so divided on these 2 issues that we're not even going to talk about the other 8. Instead, what we should do is go in and say, let's talk about some of these other things that we might be able to make some headway on, recognizing we're not going to be able to do everything. And that right there is the heart of the idea that politics need not be a raging fire. And look, he cannot control what Josh Hawley does, but he sure can seek out and find those other people in the mix who might be willing to work with him.
We are looking at a view right now of the Capitol Rotunda, where President Biden and Vice President Harris will proceed to gift stations where they will receive gifts. This is a ceremonial standard. This happens every 4 years. There will be some remarks by various people, but not Biden or Harris. Evan, as you noted, he said that there would be an epiphany, although that was more along the lines of the incentive structure would change, that there would be people who would not any longer feel the need to respond or ingratiate themselves with President Trump because he's no longer in power and no longer on Twitter. But the incentive structure that rewards bad behavior, I mean, President Biden acknowledged this in his inaugural address when he said, quote, "Recent weeks and months have taught us a painful lesson. There is truth and there are lies, lies told for power and for profit." He's obviously referring there to the lies about the election, lies that were told by Trump to hold on to power and by his supporters in Congress, but also in MAGA media, on certain other cable channels. That incentive structure has not gone away, Evan.
Yeah, and you know, that is, of course, going to be the fact of our lives. We're at the beginning of this process. We are not by any means through the woods. You know, we are in the midst of the dark winter, as he put it. And that applies not only to COVID, it applies to this, you know, the culture of the war on truth, which we are contending with right now. And it is incumbent on all of us, you know, those of us who watch politics, pay attention to it, to not forget who it is who's perpetrating the big lie here and to continue to name those names. But I think what you're also seeing is, you heard this morning, there was a letter from some Republican members of Congress, particularly some of the newer members, who are just beginning to open the door a bit to the idea that they could find some areas for some cooperation. This is not wholesale reunion, but areas for cooperation. And what the Biden strategy is force them to say no to things that Americans desperately want, like vaccine rollout, like a serious stimulus plan to help people in trouble. Force them to put their names to that, and then you begin to press them on their political calculations in a visible way. And that's, you know, that's at the basis of this approach to negotiation.
But Dana, as we prepare for more activities by President Biden and Vice President Harris, let's continue this conversation about people who shared in the big lie that resulted in not only a bunch of adherence to various conspiracy theories under the delusion that Donald Trump was going to stay president today, that he was going to declare martial law, and this was all just some big charade, which obviously did not happen. And not only the big liars on MAGA media who did so for viewers, but also the people who are in Congress. And you just heard Evan talk about the fact that a letter went out. Congressman Meyer, who is an honorable Republican from Michigan, who voted to impeach President Trump. He's a freshman. He did so at great personal, professional risk. He wrote a letter, but others on the letter, other Republicans, are among the people who pushed the big lie. Congressman Moore, for example. Yep. Congressman, the one from North Cawthorn, and others. And so if all these individuals who lied and who voted to undermine democracy are just able to just like move on as if it never happened, even though there are 7 dead bodies as a result of the insurrection 2 weeks ago, does not the incentive for it to happen again, except maybe perhaps successfully, persist?
It's a really good question. It's an important question, and you know, they are going to try to move on. And we just heard from the president's inaugural address, he wants to move forward, but not necessarily move on. And what I mean by that is that, you know, that's our job, to continue to ask these people, the 11 or 17, I should say, freshmen, not all of them, but some of them were part of what you call the big lie. It's our job to keep asking that question, but it's also, you know, our job to heed the call of a new president and perhaps members of Congress who want to work with him across the aisle, and to hold them accountable on the priorities that they're working on, but also the ways in which they want to get this country out of the very, very dire straits that it is in, economically, in terms of our health, the fact that we're watching an inauguration that is supposed to be socially distanced, but certainly a lot fewer people there, no parade, no people in the streets.
They were tested for COVID, by the way.
Right, everybody wearing masks. But my point is that it looks different because of the situation that we're in, and that is the challenge for Joe Biden, and it's a huge, huge challenge. And when he actually gets to the building before you, maybe behind you, Jake, maybe even before that, he will start to get to work using his pen and executive orders, not just reversing a lot of what President Trump did, but again, looking forward on these huge twin challenges.
Thinking about what Evan Osnos was just saying, that Joe Biden told him about feeling that the incentive structure is going to change for Republicans in a new era, I think is an open question, really. I think the next few weeks will tell us a lot about whether that is the case. We've already seen certain members of the Republican Party, like the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who we'll see in just a few minutes, participating in this gift-giving ceremony that the president and vice president will participate in. Kevin McCarthy was a part of the Big Lie.
Yep.
And he was an enthusiastic promoter of the Big Lie, in fact, and one of the original liars, frankly, in this whole thing. But a week ago, as the House deliberated impeachment proceedings, he did put the blame on President Trump for what happened at the Capitol, and seemed to signal that he was willing to acknowledge some blame.
And there he
is.
There he is in the center of your screen, holding a folder of some sort.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of the items that we'll see him.
But he wasn't just talking about moving on, though, House Minority Leader McCarthy. He was acting as though, he said, it's not the American way to, there's Mitch McConnell behind him, it's not the American way to act as though Joe Biden is not a legitimate president. Kevin McCarthy had been leading the charge with the false idea that Biden was not the legitimate president. This is one of the things that's so distressing. It's not just these small pods of conspiracy theorist adherents like QAnon. It is literally tens of millions of Trump supporters who believe the lie.
Which is why I think we still don't know how this is going to go, how this is going to play out in the Biden era. Will he have a reasonable opposition party that is motivated by policy and by ideology, or will he be dealing with and Mitch McConnell walking in there, will he be dealing with what we as a country have been dealing with for the last 4 years, a combination of lies and conspiracy theories and culture wars? And I think that will make a big difference in determining whether Joe Biden can actually get stuff done around here.
Well, if you look at there's President Biden walking through Congress, Vice President Harris before him in the purple outfit.
Now the president of the Senate.
That's right, Vice President Harris. A week ago, just a regular old senator. Now she's president of the Senate.
And the tie-breaking vote.
And presides in a 50-50 tie, which there could be quite a bit of, given that it is a 50-50 Senate. And that is the reason why the Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and Majority Leader Chuck Schumer are involved in a power-sharing negotiation right now, because it is 50-50. The last time that happened, I think that they had even numbers of members on committees, but the Democrat in that case, in the 50-50 Senate was the chairman. Yeah. But it has, the rules are hundreds of years old, literally. But in any case, so there's the President Biden again with the First Lady, Jill Biden. You talk about whether or not Republicans are going to resort to culture wars. Abby, it was just a couple weeks ago that, let's listen in.
Vice President and the second gentleman. Normally at this time, we have a lunch, and probably no person alive has attended more of those lunches than President Biden has. It's an important moment where it's bipartisan. It's the time to bond between the executive and the legislative branch of the government. We probably don't need as much bonding because we already have that natural bonding with you and the traditions here. by those traditions, usually there's a painting at the front of that event that the chairman picks. This time, not knowing we were going to have an event until what we were going to do about an event until late, I asked Dr. Biden to help pick the painting, and this is the one that she recommended. The painting is landscape with rainbow. Rainbow, always a good sign. It's loaned to us for today from the Smithsonian American Art Museum. The artist, Dr. Robert Sheldon Duncanson, he was the best-known African-American painter in the years surrounding the Civil War. He was based in Cincinnati, encouraged by abolitionists who, among other things, sponsored a trip for him to do some study in Europe. This is a painting that he painted in 1859, and I think maybe it's sort of the classic America as a paradise painting that a lot of painters were doing then. But for him, a black artist painting this painting that's so much like an American utopia on the verge of a war that we would fight over slavery, makes all of that, I think, even more interesting in that while he faced lots of challenges, obviously was optimistic even in 1859 about America. And so, Dr. Biden, thanks for helping select this painting, and glad to have all four of you here as we move on to my good friend Senator Klobuchar.
I like the rainbow.
The rainbow is always a good sign. Let's hope so.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Door number two. There we are. Good. Mr. President, First Lady, Madam Vice President, and our very first second gentleman, on behalf of the American people, it is our honor to present these custom-made crystal vases commemorating your historic inauguration. Lennox, which you know is a great company, American company, has handcrafted these gifts for the past 9 presidential inaugurations. It is a good thing I don't have to hand them to you personally. They each weigh, with the base, 32 pounds, but combined 64. But Jill, I know, is very strong and could take them both. Exactly. But the Lennox company is actually based in Bristol, Pennsylvania, which you know, Mr. President, is a mere 132 miles from Scranton, since we know today all roads lead to Scranton. The team at Lennox has worked for months to capture the spirit of this inauguration and your incoming administration. Mr. President, your vase features the White House, and Vice President Harris's features the U.S. Capitol. The gifts represent the hope and the faith the American people have placed in you to move our country forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, while the pandemic has sadly limited our usual hospitality, as others have mentioned, I'm very glad we still carry on some of our favorite inaugural traditions. It's my honor and privilege to help present these flags of our nation that were flown over today's event here at the Capitol. Now, I have to make one point of personal privilege on behalf of the Senate. With all due respect to our distinguished Speaker and our colleagues from the House, I have to note, not only did we just swear in a son and daughter of the Senate to these high offices, but indeed both these former senators skipped the House altogether. The Star-Spangled Banner is our greatest symbol of our endurance of the American idea. It flies over this building on triumphant days and on tragic ones, over all factions and all parties. And today this flag flew over our former colleague's inauguration as the very first female Vice President of the United States. So to our very distinguished former colleague, Madam Vice President, please accept this flag with the highest compliments and congratulations of the United States Senate.
The distinguished leader of the Senate pointed out that he has hosted this lunch for members of the Senate who have become president and vice president. But I have the privilege of giving the flag to the President of the United States, the flag that was flown when you were sworn in, Mr. President. This flag may it reflect all that is said about your inauguration. America united. May it be a symbol of the hope, the healing, and the just all of the enthusiasm that you have for our country. And as we heard the beautiful national anthem, when we're at the stadium and they say, is our flag still there? Then you say, play ball, right there, play ball. So we're going to get ready to play ball. We're ready to go with the inspiration of our flag flying. But again, on behalf of the House of Representatives, it is my privilege to extend to you the flag that was flown the early moment that you were sworn in as President of the United States. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Dr. Biden. Thank you. If we had the lunch, we would have had California wine. Is that not right? Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, congratulations. With liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. President. Thank you.
Modern technology, right? It's a good picture, too. Well, President Biden, Vice President Harris, Dr. Biden, and Mr. Emhoff, on behalf of Republicans and Congress, congratulations. Very proud of you both. When President Washington was sworn in as the first president of the United States, only a handful of people saw the ceremony or heard the famous first inaugural address. Today, the inauguration is seen around the nation and indeed around the world. Yet the task facing the nation is no less momentous than it was in Washington's time. I listened to your speech today. You talked among the tension and division. Our task as leaders is to bind this nation's wounds and dedicate ourselves to the values of all Americans share together. With modern technology, just a few minutes ago, it captured in these pictures. History in the making for all the world to see. This picture should serve as a reminder of that task that we have before us. As a very proud son of California, it is my honor to present to a very proud daughter of California as well. Today, Vice President Harris made history, and all of America should celebrate that. But we should also remember that this is not the end, but just the beginning. As leaders, we are judged not by our words, but by our actions. So let's go forth from here together, accomplish great things for the American people. And every time you look at this photo, remember the beginning of the job we have to do. Congratulations.
Madam Vice President, Sam Hoff, Dr. Biden, Mr. President. No, Joe. You're Mr. President. And we are so proud of that. Dr. Biden, he makes you call him Mr. President? Marriage is about to get rocky, I can tell. On behalf of the Joint Congressional Committee on the Inaugural Ceremonies, I too am proud. More than that, I'm ecstatic to present the two of you this picture. A testament to technology and a testament to history. Mr. President, in your speech, you talked about faith. You talked about tribulations, but you talked about victory. The Johnson brothers wrote a great hymn. You know it well, Mr. President. Today, we have a new day. And that hymn came out of faith and out of deep trouble into hope. And they said, facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory's won. That's what your speech was about. And that's why we are so proud and ready to march with you, President Biden. God bless.
And they're both different. Yeah. Get the whole family in there. Put your head in there.
Oh, God. Well, thanks, President.
Thank you.
Really mean.
I don't know what they're supposed to be doing.
Nice, sir. Thank you. You bet. Thank you, everyone.
Watching a traditional presentation of gifts, a somewhat, well, it's a traditional ceremony, somewhat awkward ceremony on this day.